Phillip Rivers, when you've watched him since he's come back, what have you seen? Did you see any progress from, I guess, that first start return to the second one?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he looked good in both games. Just obviously super sharp guy. One of the best of all time, obviously, and he's really got command of everything out there. So it's a tough guy to prepare for and to play against because it's like you're playing against a coach out there too. A guy that knows football as good as anybody and can get the ball out really quickly and knows where he wants to go with the ball immediately. So it's a real challenge, and I think he's done a hell of a job so far.
Do you go back to when he was in the league previously? I mean, even though that was a few years back, or do you just stick to these two?
Watched a little bit of it, yeah. But, I think primarily what's going on right now with what they're doing and obviously with how he's playing and their current team. So that's the best vantage point to look at it from, I think.
Good coach.
Hey, Coach, obviously it's not over yet, but you guys have made the playoffs. If you could reflect a little bit, what are some of the things that have made your group of defenders so special this year?
I just think we have a lot of selfless people in here, in this organization and really on our unit. And I think what Coach Cohen did here, just in this whole process, the thing that stands out to me the most is we practice very physical to get to this point. We practiced as physical as you can in the summer, and I think that really helped create the culture of what we're trying to do here. And it's a credit to the players and really a credit to him because his vision of what he wanted this team to be, I think, had a huge impact on any of the success that we had. And if I could attribute it to anything else, I would attribute it to the selflessness of the players, and the toughness they practiced with.
Can you see that sort of with guys going down, guys coming in on the fly? Is that sort of what you're talking about with the selflessness?
Yeah, I think just like when I talk about even in the pass rush, it's a team rush mentality, or it's a do your job culture. If you do your job, it's going to help the whole. It's going to help the entire unit. And I think guys have been really selfless in terms of doing that, doing what we've been asking them to do. And obviously, you're always working on that. You're trying to improve it. But everything we've been asking our guys to do, we've been getting that from them. Because I think the bottom line is they all have one thing in common. They want to win. They want to win together because they care about each other. So that's been the coolest thing to watch, not knowing them. And then, when I got here, obviously them not knowing me and them not necessarily, maybe not all of them knowing each other and watching that kind of grow, which has been really cool.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
We'll go D-Rock, followed by Mark Long.
Hey, Coach. Was the staff all together last night watching that Monday night game?
Everybody was kind of working on the next game, but had the TVs going in their office. So, working on prior games from them. And then everybody had the TV up with the current game rolling last night. So I think everybody was kind of on the same plan.
So what was the reaction like when it became, I guess, on that pick six by the linebacker, that it looked like that game was over and you guys are going to the playoffs? Can you kind of describe what happened?
Yeah, for me, it was just keep working, That's great. I'm glad that happened. But honestly, we're so focused on this current game. And, maybe that's a bad answer, but it's an honest answer. It didn't affect what I was doing at the time. And I can't speak for all the other coaches, but I can assume it was a very similar experience for them too, because we've been trying to grind and get this thing right and get ready, prepared for this next game. So, but definitely fired up about the opportunity to go ahead and continue playing.
So you couldn't hear anybody yelling, cheering, nothing?
Oh yeah, there was definitely that. There's, you got that all the time. Yeah, there's probably just me yelling most of the time for no reason. But, but yeah, that's old hat around here. That's what it usually is. But no, guys were fired up for sure. And I think everybody was excited, like I said, for the opportunity to continue playing, and everybody was for sure still working, grinding on this next one.
You guys did a really good job against Jonathan Taylor here in Jacksonville. Is he a different back in Indianapolis on the turf there? And how tough of a guy is he going to be to corral this time up there?
Yeah, I think anytime you're playing against him, everybody better be doing their job. Everybody better have great gap integrity. This isn't a guy you freelance with and you delve into your artistic interpretation of what everybody should be doing. This is everybody do your job, and do your job to the best of your physical ability, because he can make you look bad in a hurry. I think he's done a tremendous job. Obviously, the whole year, everybody knows that about him. But it takes, all it takes is one guy not executing for him to make you pay. And you watch him, to your point, you watch him in their stadium. Yeah, I mean, if he gets out, he can fly. So he is as much of a challenge in the run game as anybody will play the entire year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, how well is Jarian Jones playing for you on the back end there?
He's really done a great job for us. And the thing with Jarian is somewhat like Antonio Johnson I was talking about last week. Jarian wears a lot of hats for us on the back end. So there's even positions he's prepared for that he hasn't played in games. We've been able to move him around, and he's really got a good understanding of so many positions in the back end, whether that's corner, dime, nickel, even safety in some certain situations. So he's really kind of a glue guy because he's got position flex. And it's so genuinely important to him, just knowing him and being around him every day. It's so important to him, and he wants to be a great player. I think he's done everything that he possibly can to progress and become a better player and become a really good player for us. And we've been leaning on him, and he's done that. He's played great football for us. And I love coaching the guy, honestly. Like, he's a hard guy not to love if you're around him every day. He got great energy. And he's another guy I was just talking about, people that just want to win. He just wants to win. He wants to win, and whatever it takes, however physical it's got to be, or whatever you're asking him to do, he's willing to do it.
When you're cutting up clips, did you cut up him jumping a running back on the sideline?
Yeah, I actually was going over that with him the other day. I taught him how to do that. I did it backwards, though. I kind of like flipped when I did it.
You pulled the Saquon on.
No, but that was pretty impressive. I saw that on the TV copy, and I was like, wow, that was pretty impressive.
So it doesn't. You don't flash that to the team. I mean, he famously.
We may have to show that. We may have to show that. Okay. As long as they don't show me attempting something like that, it'd be it's all good.
Thank you.
You bet.
John Shipley and then Justin.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. With how many guys have stepped in and played, big roles in the secondary this year, what has that kind of said about the way that Coach Milas and Coach Perkins have just kind of gone to work with that unit since you guys have gotten here?
Yeah, they. One thing I'm going to say about this staff and those guys especially, Ron and Anthony, is they've been grinding since we got here. It wasn't an easy offseason for our coaches either. They were working every day, and we were working long hours to try and get it right and hit the ground running, and they've done that every day since. They've prepared a bunch of different guys for different positions, which they're always trying to do extra with the guys, whatever it may be, even in the post-practice, or you've probably seen in the pre-practice, whatever they can do to help these guys out. And I think they do a great job with all the guys, and getting some of the younger guys ready especially.
Thanks, Coach.
Justin, I think you're muted.
I couldn't hear him.
We'll move on to Mia for now.
What's up, Camp? Been a hot minute.
How you doing?
Good. How are you? Merry
Great.
early Christmas. In the same vein of Mark's question, I kind of want to build on that. Who would you argue, and I don't know if you can pick one, I don't know if you want to upset anybody, but who would you say in terms of just sheer juice? You mentioned about you yelling, and that's old hat around here. Like, who epitomizes that on the defensive side of the ball?
Man, we got a lot of guys like that. I think we got so many guys with great energy. Are you talking about players or coaches?
Yeah, just since you brought up Jarian, and I don't know if there's anybody else that like really.
There's so many guys like that, man. I mean, Foye is such a a great guy, and he's such a professional. But you hear him before the games, talking to the team, and it means something when he speaks to the guys, and he speaks from his heart, and you can feel that. You usually have a great feel for people's energy, and there's a lot of good energy in that locker room. There's a lot of people who bring great energy to our team. There's so many guys. I think of Jordan Lewis, what he's done coming in here, Eric Murray, who are two new guys, and I think they've helped establish the culture that they want in the defensive back room. And so many of those other guys are, they're just the same way. Like I think of Buster, they all care so much. I think the number one thing that just jumps out to me is how much these guys really love each other and love playing together. It's a cool thing. It's a little bit like a high school locker room, a high school environment. And having coached in high school for a long time, like I see that in these guys, and I think football, when it's at its best, it is that way. And then you have something special when that's the case. If people don't want to let each other down, and the more you care about each other, the less that's going to happen. I think when somebody makes a mistake, they're genuinely upset about it because they want to do right for the guys around them. And I think that energy and that culture is evident in a lot of the guys.
Love it. Awesome. As for the on-field stuff, a lot, I think, has been made about moving Trayvon inside on third downs, not just this season, but for the 4 years or however many years it's been that he's been here. Why was this game in particular against the Broncos one in which you said, hey, we need to maximize this matchup?
One of the things, if you guys, if you go back and you're looking at just even, I would say, probably since the bye, but Trey's been in there inside a little bit. That was something we had done in other places I've been, but you're just trying to get the best matchups possible. And if there are some things in the protection that you feel like you can take advantage of, or a matchup you can take advantage of, that's very game plan specific. But I think I said this last week or the week prior to that, Trayvon's really a special guy because he can play from a 3 technique all the way out to a 9 technique. Like we do stuff with him where we drop him and he can cover from an athleticism standpoint like a linebacker. So he's got a really special skill set. There's not a lot of people who are capable of doing what he's capable of doing, of having done. And he's really done a good job for us playing inside. When he plays out on the guard, when he plays on as a 3 technique and then as a 4-eye and early down, he does a bunch of that. So it's really his ability that gives us the opportunity to do that. And hopefully we're looking to, put him in the best possible situation when it comes to those pass rush situations.
And then just one more from me. A lot was made on this past broadcast in particular, and I know it's been a bunch of them, about you teaching the guys to punch the ball out versus tackling. How would you evaluate the tackling on Sunday comparatively to, like, the one play in particular they talked about was Jarian near the goal line, like he tried to punch it out instead of tackle? Is that something you guys have had conversations as an entire defensive unit about since?
Yeah, you're always securing, before you do that. That's the most important thing, is securing the tackle. And I think as a whole, I don't think we had one of our best tackling games, and that is evident in, we gave up a big run the other day. And big runs usually come, obviously, oftentimes they come from poor contact, or poor tackle entry. And I think on that run we had some poor tackle entry. We had we essentially had a misfit on something, and then we really didn't get the guy on the ground, obviously, as you can see, stating the obvious. But I do think, to your point, when you're talking about striking the football, there is a way, time and place to do that. And I think there are some times in the game as I watched it where we can enter into tackles better, and we may have given up position to do that, striking the ball a couple times. But we're always going to go after the ball. We're not going to apologize for attacking the football. That's something we're always going to do around here.
Awesome. Thanks, Camp. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We'll end with Justin and D-Rock.
Am I good?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Good.
So blocking out noise is probably a little bit easier when the noise is about everybody and you guys as a team. But how do you kind of handle that when your name is starting to pop up more for coaching interviews and things of that such that might come after the season?
Yeah, honestly, I don't pay attention to any of it. I want to win. I care about my family and this team, and obviously your relationship with God. Those are the three things you better be focused on, and all the other stuff is I don't care about it, to be honest with you. I want to win this game, and to me, I wake up with my feet hit the ground every day. That's the number one thing I'm concerned about, is obviously taking care of my family and helping our team win. So we got so many guys in here who are about the same stuff and go about their day the same way. That's the way we want to go about our work. So that's all I'm really focused on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Merry Christmas.
Hey, Grant, just sort of the days and all that. When you first got here, getting with Trevor, what are some of the intangibles that you saw from him that made you think, okay, he is going to be able to take on this type of an offense? I understand it's very complicated, just in terms of what he was able to show you guys that you knew that he was going to be capable of this.
Well, first, it probably started with his passion for the game and his care factor for not only learning the system, performing at a high level, trying to operate the system out there, but his care for the teammates, the organization, and really the betterment of everyone else around him. So when you start with that foundation, you have a lot to work with from there, because you know those type of guys like Trevor, are willing to put in the work. They're willing to spend the extra time, go the extra mile, do all those things that can separate guys from good to great in terms of knowing what to do, being able to play fast, being able to do all the things we ask of the quarterback position. So that's one of the things. Then you add on top of that the intelligence, the toughness, which you see out there on Sundays more so than all the work behind the scenes. But a lot of that goes into the way you practice, being willing to go out there when your body's probably not feeling great, you're sore. You know, he was coming off of injury this offseason. And that physical toughness, not just the mental toughness, is a big part of your training, not just your actual playing on Sunday. So you have all those different intangibles, those things come together with probably a laundry list of others that really made this offseason work, you know, really stand out and create an optimistic attitude, I guess, really going into the season.
And then just, you know, at what point maybe, I mean, maybe there's not a point, but did you notice that Trevor is finally getting everything down in terms of the footwork, all the things that you guys worked on, and how challenging is that to have to work on that, like, during the season?
I don't know that there was specifically one point that you notice you crossed the line and said, okay, now he's got it. It's something that is going to take so many reps. And when you're in it and when you're looking at it day after day after day, you don't always notice the strides that you've made over the course of a month or over the course of the entire year. So it's harder for us because we're so granular trying to look at the improvement from last rep to this rep or yesterday to today. And you know that over the course of the year, it's not going to be a straight line. It's not going to be perfect progress the whole way. But I think even when things were not, the outcomes were not what we wanted earlier in the offseason or even in training camp, I always felt, I think he always felt, and the coaching staff always felt that the trend line was always going in the right direction. So there was never any let up from him, never any let up from us in terms of that process, and trusting that continuing to stick with that process and put in the work will yield positive outcomes, which I think he believes it has, we believe it has, and we hope that it'll continue to go in that direction as long as we continue to work that way. And then the second part of your question was kind of, sorry, could you repeat that second part?
Just in terms of how challenging it is for a quarterback to have to go through footwork change, all that kind of stuff during the season.
Yeah, in season, even out of season, is incredibly challenging because he was coming back from injury, so he's limited reps actually throwing the football. So you only have so many reps throwing the football, so you're trying to emulate the throwing motion and practicing and going full speed when you're just taking drops on air, and you're trying to have creative ways of practicing that in the off season. Then you get in season and you're so time constrained because you're preparing for a game plan, preparing for an opponent, trying to study. You got all these different things to manage. And you have limited practice time. Your receivers start to get sore. You need to kind of reduce the player load in terms of how much running they can do. So you're not throwing as many routes. You don't have full speed receivers to get out there and work with. So it takes additional effort kind of on his own, on our own, to make sure that we continue to refine those things in order to improve, because with the time constraints and really just a scarcity of reps, it does become an immense challenge to continue to improve those things, let alone to keep them the status quo.
Appreciate it.
Hey Grant, thanks for doing this. Well, Wyatt Milam, kind of stepping into that sixth offensive lineman role when you guys go with the bigger packages. Just what have you liked from him in that role, and just how have you kind of seen him grow, especially considering he had to fight through an injury at the start and kind of maybe got behind the eight ball a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question. Wyatt's one of those guys who's probably been a little bit under the radar, but has been working his tail off in the background, not only to get ready to play tight end, but to play guard, play tackle, wherever we need him. He's embraced whatever role you've thrown him into. And he's battled some of those injuries, but even amidst those injuries, he's still studying and preparing at 100% like he's going into play. So the mental aspect of being a rookie, not getting a lot of reps, and trying to juggle multiple positions is really impressive for him to continue to work through that stuff. Then on the field, I think you see the aggressiveness, the physicality, and like the play style that he plays with. He attacks every single play, every single rep, and he practices the same way. So to get a guy with those kind of combination of factors and the way he approaches practice, game preparation, and then his play style makes him a special individual.
Thanks, Grant.
Thanks, Sean.
We'll go D-Rock, followed by Mark Long.
Hey, Grant, where were you when the pick six happened last night and you guys essentially made the playoffs at that moment? What was the reaction like for you?
I was in my office, and I think the reaction was probably just to keep working on some of the run game and some of the play passes. We have a lot of work to do, and we got our hands full this week, so there's not a lot of time for celebration right now. But when the time's appropriate, I'm sure we'll celebrate. But right now, we're just focused on preparation, so not a lot of celebration going on, but definitely a lot of work to do.
You guys are boring. Good Lord.
I know. I wish I had something. I wish I had something good for you, but that's the truth. That's the truth.
Hey, how important, or maybe important's not the right word, but critical and something that maybe a lot of people overlook is ball placement from a quarterback, especially, back shoulder, front shoulder, where the defender is, and how much has Trevor improved with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Nick Mullins talks about how run after catch, I have to give him credit, he talks about run after catch is an accuracy stat. From a quarterback perspective, that is. And there's absolutely some validity to that, where you see Parker Washington had 2 huge run after catches in the previous game. And a lot of that is due to his accuracy. So not only that placement on short routes, intermediate routes, but even some of those deeper routes, if you can hit a guy in stride and they don't have to lose their speed, that's the difference between one step, a DB catching up and closing the space, or a guy being able to turn up and make a move on a defensive back, a linebacker, safety, whoever it may be in that space, or the guy having to slow down, collect himself, or reach back for the ball and lose all of his momentum. I think as Trevor's gotten used to and continue to create that chemistry with the wideouts, the tight ends, the backs coming out of the backfield, I think that's where you see a lot of the accuracy improve, because we have such a heavy reliance on timing, rhythm, guys being at the right spot at the right time, getting to these certain spots, being able to see the coverages and being able to see how defenses are playing you and getting to those spots. When Trevor's on the same page with his eligibles, that's when you see an elite level of accuracy really come to fruition. I don't think it's ever really been a question of the physical ability. It's more so been a question of our execution as an offense, which we've tried to improve, and I think you've seen it improve. There's still room to grow without a doubt, but that kind of manifests into what appears to be improved accuracy on TV a lot of times.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Grant, how nuanced is the quick snap? And was that more to keep Denver's defensive front from getting set, or was it to combat maybe some of the issues that come with crowd noise?
Yeah, that's another great question. There's a lot of advantages to that quick snap, and we try to mix up those tempos as much as we can. We want the entirety of our time of possession to be in attack mode. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be using tempo and going fast every single play, but even when we're coming out of the huddle, we want to mix up the way we're coming out of the huddle. We want to motion sometimes. Sometimes we're not motioning. Sometimes we're snapping it quick. Sometimes we're hard counting. If we have the ball for 31 minutes of a football game, we want the defense to be stressed out, under attack, straining for all 31 minutes. It might not all be physically, but sometimes it is mentally. So we're trying to use some of those quick snaps, like you said, prevent the rush from getting set, prevent the coverage from getting set, prevent them from making communication, maybe prevent them from recognizing the formation we're in. So that depending on the play and the situation, there's a whole bunch of different reasons we'll use it. Sometimes it's to dictate certain matchups because they can't identify matchups. In that case, there were certain plays where certainly you play a rush like Denver, you want to try to slow them down as many ways as possible. And then you have cover guys like they have too, so there were certain plays where we're trying to create matchups. So depending on the play, we were mixing it up here and there, and we have a bunch of different tempos that we'll use out of the huddle that will try to keep defenses kind of offset, off balance. And I thought the guys did a great job executing. You mentioned the nuance to it. There really is a little bit of nuance where the guys have to understand the difference between tempo A and tempo B out of the huddle, and when the ball is getting snapped, and what am I doing with my feet, and where am I actually getting lined up? Where can I realistically get to be lined up before this ball snapped? Because there's no cadence on some of those. They got to trust, and Hainsey, when he's snapping the ball, or Jonah, when he's snapping the ball, has to trust that that guy's at the right spot at the right time, and I got the green light to go ahead and snap the ball. So it's great chemistry and great work for all 11 to really be on the same page there. It's something we try to work hard and practice and preach kind of the details and discipline with those fundamentals when we do those things.
Thank you.
We'll end with Justin and Mia.
Hey, Grant.
Hey, Justin.
Blocking out the noise is probably a little bit easier when it's all about the team, all surrounding the team. But when it's your name that's being brought up for potential head coaching interviews after the season, how do you kind of tackle blocking out that noise?
Well, thankfully, it's relatively easy in the sense that we have a great challenge on Sunday, and you hopefully going to continue to have that every single week. So it's the boring answer that I gave D-Rock on how you celebrate the pick six or making the playoffs and those things. You got so much work to do that you really don't have time to look up and see anything else. So, and that's the way I love it. That's the way the guys love it, and we enjoy that. I wouldn't want it any other way. So that type of stuff is flattering, but ultimately 100% of our effort and focus is on Sunday every single week. So it's really not any more complicated than that. Like I said, I know that's the boring answer, but that kind of is the truth.
I appreciate the honesty. Anton, it's 2 weeks in a row he's gotten out on the edge and been able to show kind of some of that athleticism. Just how special is that for an offensive lineman to be able to move that well and pick up blocks for you guys?
Definitely special. I love anytime we have the opportunity to showcase those big guys' athleticism. I love it. I know they love it. They love getting out in space and reminding everybody that they are athletes. And when you have a guy like Anton who really is an athlete, and the way he was moving this past weekend and even 2 weekends ago on that one screen when he's flying down the sideline, it's cool and exciting, not only for him and the O-line guys to see, but for the skill guys to recognize that's a guy with a lot of weight moving really fast down the sideline. That's very special, as you said.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe this is one you can take us behind the curtain. Maybe it won't be a boring answer, Grant. Where were you? What was your reaction when Sean says over the headset on Sunday, yeah, Walker's going to go in at right guard?
Oh, man, I'm going to give you another boring answer. I'm really racking up the boring answer, so I apologize. There was really no flinch when we had that moment, I think from the coaching staff and definitely not from the players. And I know that sounds like a cop-out, another boring answer, like I said, but you guys had asked about why we had so many rotations in the spring, why I had so many rotations in training camp. Part of that is knowing that you're not going to play the full season with the same 5 offensive linemen at the same position for the full time. Part of that was also due to the fact that we had guys who are really versatile. And we have guys who have played on the left, played on the right, inside, outside. Cole Van Lannen's done a phenomenal job playing basically every position but center and tight end this season, and really since the bye week in a pretty short time frame. Same thing with our tackles have both taken reps and played on both sides, really. Walker's played inside and outside. So because of what they've done in practice, and they've shown their ability to handle that from a mental and physical standpoint, I don't think there was any flinch from the coaching staff or the players. For Walker to be able to go out there and do what he did is still unbelievably impressive with all that being said. But really, the guys kind of took it in stride and just kept rolling with it.
Gotcha. No, it still works. I mean, it's not too boring. I just didn't know if in the week, I know Liam told us yesterday, he didn't think Walker took any snaps at guard during the week of preparation. So that's where, it was like, all right, well, here we go.
Yeah, we had given him a couple reps, but like I mentioned about even the quarterback position and the footwork, Walker had taken some reps at guard during the week, but it's very, very limited. You only have so many reps. You don't have full pad, you don't have full speed practice reps. So even with the reps he took where he's walking through or taking them at half speed tempo, that's not nearly the same. You can't emulate that game speed and that intensity, especially against a defense like that. So to say that he took reps is kind of a little bit of a farce, even me saying that, because he never has taken, he certainly has not played those plays at full speed against a real opponent at any point during the week or probably even during the spring or training camp. So that's absolutely exceptional effort and ability by Walker to be able to go out there and execute at a high level, such a high level on short notice with such little preparation.
And then we'll wrap with this. Maybe you can help me. Do you happen to know why Trevor and maybe you have some stats handy. Maybe it's something you guys have been diving into. Why has he been so good against the blitz the last like month or so comparatively? He's got a 59% completion percentage for the season against the blitz, but the last few weeks it's been automatic, 10 of 15 on Sunday, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Why has it really come together here in this last month in that particular scenario?
Yeah, another great question. I think a lot of it has to do with, well, there's probably a couple different factors, but a lot of it has to do with his recognition and his comfortability with the system and what he's doing pre-snap and how that relates to what he's going to do post-snap. Earlier in the year, and when you're first taking your first couple reps out there with the offense, it's so different, so foreign compared to what he's used to. There's a lot going on pre-snap. There's shifts, there's motions that maybe you don't have as much time or you don't have as much mental space to devote to recognizing the defense and recognizing the blitz and what's going on. Now I think that he's gotten more comfortable and he's able to play faster. He has more of that working memory available to identify what's the defense doing, what am I going to be able to do, what's this blitz, can I recognize what this blitz is, can we figure out what's coming before it happens, and then maybe get into the right check or get to the right play or just know what the right response is beforehand. So I think a lot of that starts with his recognition. And then secondly, it goes into being on the same page with the wideouts, with the tight ends, whoever it might be. When you are facing the blitz, everything is going to kind of be, I guess exacerbated in the sense that if you have a certain route that needs to be at a certain timing or at a certain depth and it's a little bit off, well, you might have 0.2 less seconds to get that throw off or 0.3 seconds to get that throw off. So if it's not exactly right, then that's the difference between a negative play and a positive play against the blitz. So it's just that small margin of error of improvement that we've made with the wideouts, with maybe the protection sometimes, with maybe recognition. That can be the difference between the numbers that you cited and maybe sometimes struggling against pressure.
Awesome. Thanks, Grant. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys. Thank you guys so much.